Hey choppers, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our Kickstarter previews, like this one we have for you today for The Great Nameless by Winter Night Games. Check it out, bub. The Great Nameless is a game of celestial might and divine horror, in which you play gods that have created your own realms and have blocked yourself off from the Primo Regni, which is the hex tile in the middle of the board, which will generate out different monsters that will try to invade your realm down your doom tracker. Now, at the beginning of the game, each player takes one of the realms, and you can see they have two on the board, but they look like this. And each one of them has a special ability that will happen, special action that you can take, and a tracker up above all around the sides for your victory points. And also have a little realm gate, which whatever opponents, entities, and stuff move into your realm, they will come in through here, or the Primo the guys will come down through your doom tracker into your realm that way. To set up, you put the Primo hex in the middle of the table. Here we have it towards the upper part of our table for space-wise. Each player takes one of the doom trackers and places it connecting. As you can see, I've got one here and one there set up for a two-player game. They place it connecting there, and then they place their realm connected to the bottom part adjacent to the one space on the doom tracker. They will then take their deck of cards that matches the symbol in the realm gate right there and shuffle it up and draw 4 cards as their starting hand. You see that deck is right there for this one here. Shuffle it up, draw 4 cards. At the beginning of the turn, you're going to be able to draw 2 cards, but we'll go over that in a minute. The Primo's deck of cards is shuffled and placed somewhere next to the hex. You can see we've got it right there. And then you select a number of seals and doom tokens equal to 3 times the amount of players. So we've got 2 players set up here. So we've got our seals, which you can see are the wooden chits here. And then we've got doom tokens, which are the metal tokens here. You'll be collecting those through the game to try to seal off your realm from the Primo tile. This is one of the ways to win the game. If you have a seal on each one of these spots on your doom token where it says seal here, and then seal here, you will be, and then also I think there's, right here, it says seal here. If you have a seal token right there in one of those 4 spots, you will win the game. That's one of the win conditions. The other way is to reach a certain amount of predetermined victory points. For a 2-player game, you have to reach 50. For a 3-player game, you have to reach, I think it's 40. And for a 4-player game, you have to reach 30 victory points. You'll also take some colored realm tokens. You just choose whatever color you have. You can see the Eden board over here. They're using red tokens. I'm using bluish. Actually, on the camera, they kind of look like black, but in here, in person, actually dark blue realm tokens, and put one of them on the 0 marker on your board to track your victory points. Now, granted, this is a prototype, so everything is subject to change during the Kickstarter. You can see we've got artifact cards that we'll go over in a minute over here on the side. They don't have finished artwork on them, they just have generic artwork, and there's some generic artwork on the cards in the decks. We've got a little stack of 5s and 1 health tokens over here because your entities, which are creatures you'll be putting out during the game to either attack other players' realms or to try to attack the Primo, they'll keep track of their health that way on the cards. Your deck contains 4 different types of cards. It contains entities, artifacts, events, and responses. Responses are the only cards that can be played on an opponent's turn. But there's 3 different types of entity cards. We'll take a look at them here. There's army ones, which are the most common. These are ones you'll be generating and putting out to do attacks. You'll be putting out a lot of them. There's champions in the entities. These are more powerful, buffed up characters or creatures that she'll be putting out. And then there's the avatar, which is basically the physical manifestation of you, of your god of the realm coming out. You can tell it's got more health than these other guys. It's going to do more damage. Has the same amount of movement though, because everybody's slow. You've got event cards which will come out and do different things during the game. And you have artifacts which will bump up. You attach them to your entities to bump up their stats and give little abilities. Like this artifact right here has a response ability here. It says, in combat, before any damage is calculated, exert all opposing entities with less than 2 current health. So that'll help out. Now there's also response cards. These are the ones you can play on opponents' turns when they're doing things. Now, the cards over here on this side of the table that have the generic artwork on them are available for everyone to play. These count during your turn. You can play one of these, and they're basically for everybody to use, other than the cards in your deck. And they have certain stipulations, though, when they can be played. Like you can see right here, the conventional weapon, it's an artifact. You can play this card instead of an artifact card from your hand. This is considered playing an artifact in every way, because during your turn, you'll be able to play 2 cards from your hand, but they have to be of separate types. You can't play like 2 artifacts, 2 entities. They have to be 2 different kind of cards. So you can play this instead of playing an artifact from your hand, and if it would ever be destroyed, condemned, discarded, or placed into a deck, you return it to the table instead. And you can see it's a weapon, it's an artifact, so it's going to attach to one of your entities and give it +1 damage, but no extra health, no extra movement. You can see the tools of conversion's also an artifact, same stipulations here, but gives no extra damage, but ups your life, no extra movement. Now, there are entity cards that are over there. That's a giant stack in the middle. It's huge. I don't know if you can see it on the camera right there. But they are just like regular entities. You can, basically same stipulations. You can play it as if you were playing an entity card from your hand. It's considered an entity. If it would be destroyed, blah, blah, blah. It goes back onto the table in the deck rather than being put in your discard pile. And it's a basic army entity. 1 damage, 1 life, 1 movement, so it's only going to be able to move 1 spot during the turn rather than 2 or 3 like some other ones, and it's only going to do 1 damage during combat. It has 1 health, so it's killed pretty easily. But there's a big stack of them, so if you don't have any in your hand, you want to play an entity, you could get one of these guys out on the board so that you got some guys to protect your realm. Now, there's only one of these cards. This is Fate Smiles Today, and it's an event card, and it basically has the same stipulations. I don't know if there's only going to be 1 in the kit whenever you get it from Kickstarter the game, or if it's going to be a stack of them. But this is just like playing an event from your hand. You get to draw 1 card, and then you put this card back on the table. It cannot be canceled, so your opponent can't play any responses to stop you from playing Fate Smiles Today. But yeah, you got your cards. You play them out during your turn. Let's go over a little bit of the turn structure that is on these cards right here. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the turn order card. I know it says Archangel on here, and then underneath it says the Great Nameless. This game was originally titled Archangel when it was in its original inception, but they have changed it, or inception, I'm not sure. But they have changed it, and it's just the Great Nameless. Now, you notice the card backings have Archangel on them also, but this will not be there. It's just going to be the Great Nameless. Now, at the beginning of the turn, and it should be noted that you are not going to have your Primo Regni phase for the first round of the game. You're going to skip this, but we'll go through it here. But at the beginning of the round, the current player follows these in order and then goes ahead and gets to choose when they do what they want to in the phase as they're going through it, because there's multiple stuff that you can do during each phase. So for the Primo phase, you're going to go ahead and any entities that are in Zahul's realm, which is the Primo realm, and that's the name of the god there. Any entities they have are going to shift down 1 in the realm. So let's say Primo had an entity here in the 3 on this Doom tracker here, and generated 1 in the realm here. He would shift that 1 down 1, and the one that's currently in 3 would shift down to 2. So they all shift down 1. If he didn't have 1 here, he had 1 in the 3, the 1 in the 3 would still shift down to the 2. They all march forward towards the realms they're going after. Now, you would also turn over one of the top cards in the Primo deck here and resolve it. And also, it should be noted that if you want to, you have one of these Doom tokens, you can spend it to get rid of it to do another primo phase at the beginning of your turn, because these tomb tokens not only count as -5 victory points at the end of the game if you have one, but they also will give the primo god Zahul, they will give him, or give his entities, +1 damage to you during your turn. So having these, even though +1 damage might not be a lot, and I'm sorry, it's not to you, it's towards your entities during combat, might not be a lot, but that -5 victory points at the end of the game kinda sucks. Now, the next phase you're going to do is the refresh phase, which if you have any cards in your realm that are exerted, so they're turned sideways because their abilities have been used, you're going to go ahead and refresh them. And you're also going to draw 2 cards off the top of your deck. Then it moves to the action phase, in which, like I said before, you can play up to 2 cards from your hand, but you can't play more than 1 event, artifact, or entity. Response counts, cards don't count towards this because they're usually played on opponent's turns in response to something. You can also trigger any action abilities that you have on your entities or on your board. You can see the action here in this realm says if you have played no artifacts or events this turn, you may play an extra entity card. So you can play 1 card and then you haven't played anything else, an artifact or an event, you can play an extra entity card. So that kind of breaks that playing cards of the same type during your turn during the game. You can also you can place a seal on any of these if you have one and you have an entity in that spot on the board. You could place a seal. So if I had an entity in this yellow 2, I could place a seal right there on the yellow 2. But you do not get these seals just any old way. Card abilities will allow you to acquire the seals and put them. So you have to be in control of a seal before you can place it. You can't just play a card that says place a seal and place it. You got to be in control of seals. Also, you can move your units. So if you have you have entities that you have on board, like we'll go ahead, I've got one off here to the side that I was showing you guys earlier. This entity here, let's say I already had him in my realm. There. He has a 2 movement. So let's say I wanted to move him over here into my opponent's realm. I could move it 1 here, and then it would go 2 right there to be in your opponent's realm. And then on a later turn, I can move him actually in the realm. Whenever you move it into the realm, and if they have entities there, it would initiate a combat. Or I could choose to go 1, 2, and move it up my Doom tracker that way for movement. And if there were any other entities of either the primos or my opponents that happen to be on my Doom track, I would initiate combat that way. Which, getting to the 4th phase, is the combat phase, where you initiate combat if any of those stuffs happen. And combat's relatively easy. There's damage on the things, and you'll go ahead and see it on the Kickstarter page. We're not going to go too far into the combat right now getting resolved. Then there's the end phase, where you do any end effects on your cards. You discard down to 8 cards in your hand if you have more than that, and then you check to see if any realms or lost and or sealed, because remember the win condition is to have a seal 1, 2, 3, 4, have all 4 seals on your realm. This seal over here is optional. This is basically to stop other players from getting into your realm. You don't have to have a seal here for your win condition, or you have a certain amount of victory points. But if your realm is lost, you lose the game. You lose. But then how that happens is if any of the Zahul's entities get down your Doom tracker and into your realm is considered lost. So at the end of your phase, you check and see if any realms are lost or sealed, and if all realms are either lost or sealed, then the game ends. You total up victory points if you're playing that way, or if the realm was lost and yours was sealed, you win. You check it like that. So this is The Great Nameless. It's by Winter Night Games. It's coming to Kickstarter, so make sure you get over there and check it out. I'm Logan for Logan Chops Reviews. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Happy gaming. Nope, you thought I was done. I prematurely ended the video in that last little part that I did and realized that I didn't tell you how to acquire victory points during the game. So victory points are given to you by having seals. Seals are worth 5 victory points each at the end of the game. Also, different artifacts and entities that you control at the end of the game will give you victory points, as well as earning some during the game for doing different things. You can see the ones without the armor here, the universal artifact cards and stuff over there, have the gray 0 in them. That means they're worth 0 victory points whenever you play them or whenever they're beat. But you can see the cards that I showed you earlier have the numbers in the background. These are the victory points. So you can see the Unborn right here is a 1. You know, the Ibis right here, the Obsidian Dragon, is worth 4. You can see the Carnificus, the Torturer, which the Avatar is worth 5. You know, the event's worth nothing. This artifact's worth 1, and the response is worth nothing. So you'll generate victory points during the game, and then whenever you get to that victory point total, you'll win. Or if all the realms are either sealed or taken over, you know, lost, you'll end the game in total victory points that way from what's on your board and what you control, seals and what have you. So now the video is complete, and thank you for watching. Sorry about that. If you're just catching this later on afterwards, if you watched the end of the other video and stopped it and then had to come back and somebody was talking about, hey, what did you catch the victory point part? And you're like, no, I didn't. Sorry for having to make you rewatch the video or skip through it to get to this part. And now I'm just rambling, which I have a tendency to do sometime. So we'll see you next time. I'll let you go this time. Happy gaming.